I went through the cancer journey without doing chemo, without doing radiation. Cancer was the happiest time in my life. I actually have chills.
Shannon Avery Briggs. And we met through this amazing program that Brendan Burchard started with Ultra. I guess it's Growth Day and then Ultra. And it has gotten us to meet the most beautiful, ambitious,
people.
amazing, beautiful, ambitious people that want to make such a huge impact in the world, on the world. Like finding the resources and tools and how we share all of our gifts with one another. And I'm excited that you're going to do that with us. So you stand at the helm of Luminous Connections, where Shannon serves as a beacon of hope and transformation. With a profound dedication to steering people from the depths of their darkest moments to the heights of their greatest victories, Shannon's role as a transformation resilience coach and strategist is both unique and impactful. Her journey is one marked by formidable challenges, surviving domestic violence, battling cancer, enduring the profound sorrow of losing a child, and navigating the complexities of addiction and codependency. And when it makes me think about when Ed Milet said, there's nobody better to help your old you than the you today.
Yeah.
And there's a million people just like you. Go help them. And I love that you are really doing it. And that's incredible. These experiences have not only shaped her, but also equipped her with the insight and empathy to guide others from merely surviving to truly thriving. Her commitment is not just to envision a brighter future for those she guides, but to also ensure they step confidently into it. So, I'm completely honored to welcome Shannon and learn more about Shannon Avery Briggs today on the episode.
Thank you.
And thank you.
That's the first time that I have heard that introduction read back to me, and the emotion that actually comes up with it actually kind of surprised me, because it is something that's really, really dear to both my husband and my heart. We're both certified under Brendan with the high performance coaching and stuff, and so having you hear that, and it's like it makes it even more real. And humbling as well.
Wow. And I love that you say you're a strategist and a coach. Because I think there's a lot of coaches out there. I think that is such a huge need. Shannon, can you share with us the pivotal moments in your journey that transformed you from surviving domestic violence, cancer, as well as the profound loss of a child, into the vibrant and thriving individual that you are today? Like, how do these experiences fuel your passion for helping others?
So in 2016, I stood at a counter at a doctor's office, and a tear rolled down my face and hit the paper below as I was making the appointment for a biopsy. And I had just gone through, an exam and stuff, and and the doctor had told me, which told me that she did expect it to be cancer. So went through that, decided, and it did come back. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Initially, I was going to just, and follow some of those big names. It's like, let's just get it done, taken care of, and let me get back to my life. But the universe kind of had a different idea and started kind of poking me. When you first get that diagnosis, you're in that state of fog and confusion and fear. Everything seems like it's going in slow motion. The days are gray and stuff. And I kept getting kind of these messages in a way from a friend of mine at work who took me back into a conference room and said, no, don't just jump into this. Take your time, really find out what's going on, as well as somehow I still don't know to this day, somehow I ended up on this newsletter for cancer, like more of a holistic approach to cancer. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And then somebody else made a recommendation, and come to find out, I ended up, the doctor that I ended up hiring, was in the in the program that I'd gotten in the email. And so it was like I was getting the same message, like from all sorts of different directions. So I ended up firing the traditional doctor. I didn't follow the standard of care. I went through the cancer journey without doing chemo, without doing radiation. I'm not saying that I'm against that, but what was really, really important, I talk about being a strategist, right?
Right.
I wanted to find my path, not the standard of care path where that you basically are like a cow going through and being herded down this one path. I wanted to find my path. And so that's what my doctor ended up doing for me. And when I first met with him, he's kind of like, he kind of reminded me of a mad scientist, kind of like Einstein, where he's like scribbling out on the whiteboard and da 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 da.
Oh gosh.
I have the picture of
It
the
shows
white.
how open-minded you are. Some people probably look at that and go,
Oh my God. I know. So I just really felt it in my gut. And so I'm working on kind of one of my messages about how cancer was the happiest time in my life and what this journey did for me. And so I thought it was about cancer, and it ended up being so much more than that, and healed me in different ways than I ever thought. And so Luminous Connections, our company, I don't know if you've seen our logo or not, but it's a Kintsugi vase. So do you know what Kintsugi is?
no, I don't. Tell us, what does that mean?
So
What is
Kintsugi is the Japanese art form of taking broken pottery and
Oh,
gluing it back together with a gold adhesive. And
yeah.
so ultimately, you would have a piece that was more beautiful at the end than what you even started with. And so that, for me, what ended up being that cancer journey.
Oh,
And to even take that, I actually have chills even talking about it.
yes.
So I had the opportunity to go to this cancer retreat where they taught women who had gone through breast cancer how to do fly fishing. It was the coolest thing. But meeting some of those women and seeing how they looked at their scars and looked at their bodies, and how they would get dressed in the dark because they couldn't see themselves. They couldn't, their relationships with their partners were, separated because they didn't want to be near, they didn't want their partner to see them. Others who weren't in relationships said, I'm never going to be in a relationship because I can't imagine somebody who would love me with my body this way.
Wow.
And it was so heartbreaking to me because I had a different perspective of my scars, because I have scars definitely from with what I ended up going through. And I saw them with gold. So when I look at my body in the mirror and I see those scars, I can see the gold in what I gained from that journey. And it just ended up like changed the trajectory of my life by doing this and learning about it.
How are you able to help others, like get the gold and put their pieces back together with the gold? How do you get somebody to recognize that that is one possible, and that it's worth putting back together with the gold, and that they're going to come back even more beautiful than when they started? How do you get somebody to that place?
That was the question that I had about a year and a half ago. That was the question, because I had coached some people who had gone through cancer and stuff, and they had come to me and they're like, you need to be a coach. You need to do this for a living. You need to tell your story. Because I have like crazy stories within this cancer journey that
Right.
will blow your mind. And so I decided to, I end up being in a toxic work environment and decide that I want to move on. And so signed up for like some how to create an online course and those types of things. And it intrigued me. It's like, how in the world do I create a course that will adapt to the person and have them have the map that they need? Like I mentioned before, my journey, I did not do chemo and I did not do radiation with the cancer journey. I did eventually do surgery, but it was when I was ready for it and I knew exactly what I wanted. So I was I ended up being very strategic with this journey. So I was at a summit with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, and that's where I was introduced to Mr. Brendan Burchard. And I was like, that guy is a dork and I love him. It made sense to me. I was like, he's got some really bright and brilliant ideas and stuff. And he's a Montana boy, which I'm from Montana as well. I grew up from Montana, so that piqued my interest. Finding that out. So probably about 3 or 4 months later, his organization actually, I ended up on one of his newsletters, and his organization reached out to me. And I was at that point in time, I was like, I need clarity on where I'm going and what I need to do with being corporate and all this kind of stuff. So I signed up as a client of theirs and realized, holy cow, this is it. This high performance coaching that they offer is so adaptable and meets the person where they are. I'd never seen anything like it. So like, for example, like if you wanted to go on a diet or whatever, some people like sign up for like Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers or whatever. And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, you follow these steps. And at the end of the week, you're going to lose weight. And that isn't necessarily the case because it may not meet your body's needs. You might have other things going on. Whereas I like to, like with this coaching, it comes every single conversation that you have with a client, it meets you exactly where you're at, and you never know where it's going to go. But they always end up coming out with something. It's so magical. And I experienced this myself as I went through. And I did at like 3 packages of theirs and went through it and was into it about 4 months. And I'm like, this is it. I don't need to recreate the wheel. I can take this and help other people, because I could see one of the things both John's my husband, one of the things that we saw with domestic violence, with cancer, with addiction recovery, you get the people that, so for cancer, for example, you might get the people that are like, here's the keys to my body, just give it back to me when I'm done, when you're done. Doctors, as if they're doing that. Or with the domestic violence, they end up in those cycles, and they don't know how, like, to get out. And so the path that my doctor took me through too, I could see the commonalities of what he did with me and how it kind of aligned to something very similar to the CHPC. And so, I have that in my toolbox. I also have, I'm certified in heart math, and I'm in the process of finally building one of my own courses, which is, thank you. It's a framework that I'm calling Value to Resilience. So it's having a framework around that value, that vulnerability, that self-love, that authenticity. And so incorporating those. And so, because my doctor was like, you're standing exactly where your feet brought you here today. You need to take responsibility for the fact that you have cancer. And
Oh,
so,
I love that.
yeah,
So he empowered you.
he did. He
He
did.
made, like, you got yourself here.
Yeah. There's something that you did in your life that has
Yes.
brought you where you are right here
What
today.
kind of cancer did you have?
I had breast cancer.
Breast cancer. So you had breast cancer,
Hmm.
and you were able to manage it holistically, and you still had the surgery when it was time, when it was, the timing was right,
Yep.
but you were in touch and you knew.
Yeah.
Um, I love that so much. I love that you share that. So you mentioned, like, I gotta know. You're like, I have so many crazy stories. I'm like, before I can move on, tell me at least one crazy story just to get it off the books, just to get it off, just so that I know, just to fill that curious bucket I have right now.
How about two? How about two? I'll tell you two.
Hey, I'm here. I'm here for it. If you'll give
Okay.
me 10, I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm like, will you just tell me, like, you're like, I have some crazy stories and we're moving on. I'm like, no, I want to rewind. Why are why you can't tell me I have a crazy story and then like move on from it like that. I gotta know. So
So
thank you.
let's start with the surgery.
Okay.
So I was going in and getting regular uh, reviews, ultrasounds to
Hmm.
monitor, like every quarter or whatever. And every single session, my radiologist would be like, Shannon, will you please talk to a surgeon? And I'd be like, nope, not gonna do it. This is the path that I'm doing. And so I would make him so mad because, and this went on for probably about a year to maybe 14 months that this was going on. But I had made an agreement by that time. The doctor, my Einstein doctor, he had
Right.
moved on, and so he was no longer my official doctor. I had a different doctor who had also wanted me to do surgery, but I'd made the agreement with him. I'm going to give this much amount of time, and then I will do surgery if we don't accomplish what we want to. So that came. It was like we hadn't accomplished where we wanted to go, and so I went to the radiologist that after I hit that milestone, that time point, and went in, and he's like, Shannon, will you please talk to a surgeon? Yep, I'll talk to one. I will absolutely talk to one. So he's like almost excited, like telling his people,
He was
get
probably like,
what? I know. So he went and it was interesting because the assistant went and got the business card and
yeah.
brought it back, and he looks at it and he kind of reminded me of, the Dilbert Boss, the cartoon character Dilbert Boss. I can't remember what his name is, but he kind of reminds me of him. And he goes, no, I told you secret. So they go out and get this other business card and bring it back. Well, it ended up being the surgeon that I chose to work with, and she was perfect for me. Even though she didn't agree with everything that I was doing, she partnered with me and honored my decisions, and we created a pathway going forward. And
Mm.
so, come to find out, we come out, and the day for my surgery, I've got a pink T-shirt on that says "Stay calm and save the Tatas," and I've got sparkly tennis shoes on. but
Oh,
but I find out afterwards that she had actually introduced herself to my radiologist the day before I had walked in that office.
wow. Oh, goosies.
And that was one of the things that I experienced. A common thing that I experienced through that journey was exactly what I needed right when I wanted it, or right when I needed it, and when I was ready for it, it came. And
Mm.
so, like I said, I knew exactly what I wanted, what the path that I wanted to take, and all of that. And it ended up being like this probably sounds strange, but a beautiful experience. And so that was one of the stories. The other crazy story is that I did a experimental treatment, and I'm not allowed to divulge like what it is all about and stuff. But I did this experimental treatment where I ended up with an open wound, and this wound would not close and would not close and would not close. And this is like, this big
Oh.
that I have on my breast that would not close and would not close and would not close. And so at one point, I would get these weird assignments from this doctor, be like, go have this conversation with your family member or whatever that needs to be addressed. So I did this with this one, and it was odd because he also was having me pay attention to what's going on, feel it in your body,
Mhm.
where be as if you're watching a movie and see what happens.
Yeah.
And so I went to this family member who had told me, I will be there for you. I will take you to all the appointments and all that. And she hadn't shown up that way. So a couple months later, we get back together and I tell her, I miss you. And she blows up on me. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting. So I went into that focus. What's
Right.
going on here? How am I feeling this in my body? All this kind of stuff. So we get through that. The next day, I end up having this horrible, horrible migraine. So I call up my doctor and I'm like, please make it stop. And so he helped me get through that. The next day, still have the pressure. He calls me down and he's like, we're missing something here with having this open wound. There's something that we're missing. So we're going to have this conversation. So we talk and talk and talk. And at one point he looks at me and he goes, you realize that you deserve help. And I did this. I literally turned away from him. And he just sat there. And a couple minutes later, he goes, you realize you deserve help. I do it again. Pull away from him. Turn away from him. And so we finish the conversation, go the next day in for a physical exam of the wound and stuff. And he comes in and he was from a different country. So he had a really strong accent. He comes in and he's like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? And he goes, blah, blah, blah. What? And his nurse goes, deserving. Do you get deserving? And I was like, yeah, whatever. So after the exam, we go into his office and he looks at me and he goes, you believe that you deserve to be sick. You believe that you deserve to have cancer. Your demeanor completely changed when we had that moment. And I felt as if I could have been knocked off that chair with a 2x4. I felt like it was like, I felt a shift in my subconscious. And so I had been documenting this open wound with pictures, so that he could keep an eye on it and everything. And that morning I had taken the picture. So I come back 6 hours later to go and get the picture taken or to do it again. And that wound had shrunk by half.
Wow.
In 6 hours. And I wouldn't have even believed it. I wouldn't have believed it.
You would have documented it.
If I wouldn't have been taking the pictures.
Wow.
It was crazy. And it was interesting too at that point in time. It had almost, have you ever like pulled out a dandelion out of the ground?
Uh-huh.
And those roots, having
Yes.
that sense of the pulling the roots. That's what it felt like. Was almost like this, like something had been ripped out of that wound. On my way home, it was like, and so from that moment on, I went, and my health just improved and improved and improved. And I went back to work after about 2 months, and I had one coworker tell me, you look 12 years younger. Why she chose 12, I don't know. But I'm like, okay, I'll take that.
That's amazing. And it's funny that you said you correlate like cancer. And when you think about dis-ease, and I think about when people talk about how the recovery process of so many other diseases, mental, physical, cancer, things like that, what it is. And so much of it is you hear all the time, well, I wasn't worthy, right? Because we're on this book that Jamie Kern Lima just brought out, and we've gotten the opportunity to listen to her several times. And just like he said, deserve, right? And I wasn't worthy of more. I didn't deserve help. And how that manifests in us physically.
You want to hear the behind the scenes too?
Yeah, I do.
So I was in counseling. I had an acupuncturist. I had my doctor. So I had all of these specialists that I was working with and who were mentoring me. And at one point, my counselor, I'd never shared with him that my dad had been physically abusive to me when I was especially in middle school and high school. And at one point, I'm standing in the kitchen when I was probably about 15 years old, and I hear my dad bragging to my mother that the school counselor had basically turned him in because I had shared something with the school counselor. And he was bragging to her about how the police had come to him and said that they would not get in the way of a parent disciplining their child. And so I had internalized that I didn't deserve help.
Oh, wow.
And it ended up manifesting this way all these years later. Now, that being said, I absolutely love my dad. He worked really, really hard. There were just different situations that were happening during that period of time. It wasn't like where it's the manipulative and the strategic abuse, but there was a level of child abuse. And
Yeah.
so I had blocked that out. I had blocked out that conversation. I didn't know why they hadn't called the cops. And then it wasn't until I was working with my counselor that that opened back up, and it was like, holy cow, domino, 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 all the way down. And so anyway, yeah, it was crazy. Like I told you, crazy stories.
Wow. And it's so interesting. And I think so many of us, we hold something ourselves. We're special,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
And this is where Ed Miletti says there's a million of people just like you
Mm-hmm.
that went through what you went through. And nobody's better at healing you than you. Now
Mm-hmm.
go. And you are really doing it.
Yeah.
And I just think how often have we heard, maybe not that exact story,
Mm-hmm.
but it's similar. And you see, and when you recognize it, do you find it? You're like, yeah, I see, I see, I see. You went on that same road I went down.
Yeah.
Yep. You saw that. I saw that too.
Yeah. The ones that I see though, unfortunately more often are the ones that are more like, here's the keys to my body, just give it back to me when you're done.
Yeah.
Or, they end up being, and when I got out of the domestic violence situation, I met somebody in one of the support groups who had been married 3 times and abused 3 times, and the last husband tried to kill her, and she had a scar across her neck, from when he tried to do that. And when I saw that, I was like, no, no, I am not going to be just a survivor. I'm going to be a healthy survivor. And that has taken me all, throughout all of these years, is like, how can I be a healthy survivor? Whether it's the domestic violence, whether it's the codependency of my husband's addiction, whether it is, the surviving through Tomas's death, all of that. It's like, I'm going to be a healthy survivor. I'm not going to be just a survivor.
Man, the people that you impact. So, you mentioned like you did, there's like that group and the impact that has. So, how do collaboration and accountability play roles in your work now?
um That's a good question. Yeah, so it's one of the things that we have with using the tools that we have. This coaching is proprietary. It's not just something that you can dig up off of the internet or anything like that. This is proprietary, and we're trained in it. And part of it is the homework, the stuff that you do afterwards. So if I look at what my doctor did with me, the through the cancer journey, he gave me homework. He gave me
Right.
homework to do, and being it's hard with homework because you're putting a mirror up against, you're looking at a mirror, and sometimes
You're
that can be,
documenting it and
and
you're measuring it.
and it can be scary because for some reason emotions feel scary, and so by having that's the first step, is like committing to doing the homework and doing that and seeing what comes out of it so that you can have the conversations. The thing with the even with the family member and me meeting with the doctor, it was at a homework assignment that I went and did, and the outcome that ended up having ended up us being able to have a conversation that just helped my life take off.
So somehow, what do you think? So you said so many of us want to just give the keys to somebody else and say, take over, give it back to me when you're done. But like that means somebody else built it. Is it really fixed? Is
Mm-hmm.
it really done? Are you really driving this vehicle? Like, how does somebody get? Because right now, like I've just visited with, like, just in the last 2 days, people who really, this is a big part of their life. I don't know how they can get to that place to recognize that they need to the value of coming back together with the gold bond. Like, how do you get to that place?
You just named it. You just said it, and it's value. That's the course that I'm developing. And
Mhm.
value is the framework. The very first step is vulnerability and taking a look at where you are and being vulnerable to enough to recognize that you may not be able to exactly change what's happening. And so don't like put an aversion to it. It's like being vulnerable enough to recognize where you're standing. And then and value being authentic with yourself, being truthful with yourself. And that can mean something different to whoever it is. L stands for love. And so learning how to love yourself and demonstrate that love, whether that means getting enough sleep that you're, at night, whether that means firing a doctor and finding one that will work with you, whether it means making sure that you're getting the nutrition, all of those kinds of things can fall into that self-love. I go back to the art of deserving, is understanding the art of deserving and really figuring out where that comes in with where you are personally. How much do you deserve personally? How much do your relationships deserve? And how much does your deserving, for example, like with your career, what do you deserve in regards to your career? So all of those pieces. And then the E is taking that empowerment through responsibility.
Okay.
So those are like the kind of my first 5 steps that any time that I would work with somebody, especially if they're in a situation, like they're coming out of the last steps of being in a domestic violence situation,
Yeah.
or the last steps of cancer or something like that, and they're not going anywhere, that's kind of where I would start.
Okay.
And the using tools like heart math and stuff like that to help them strengthen where their foundation, where they're at. Having that foundation, either way, whether you're out of it or in it, it's a good idea to review it and know where you're at.
Because I can imagine it's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely terrifying. And without a firm foundation like you can plant your feet on,
Yep.
having a community, having a resource, and having tools, I can see how as you start seeing the parts that you've managed to hold back
Mm-hmm.
and let those monsters escape away from you,
Yes.
right? But they have to come like they gotta go through you, right, to get away.
Yeah.
I can just imagine how incredibly terrifying that could be.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And you have to be willing to do that, because if you're not doing it. So there were 2 other women who did the same treatment that I did. They actually had more treatments.
The one with the Einstein doctor, or the one with the one? Okay.
Yeah. And they weren't willing to go there.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't willing to pull back the layers of the traumas that they'd experienced. One of them was like, yeah, I've already done that. It's like, no. We live in a life. You're never done. Just get that off the table. You're never done. You always have. That's like what Brendan, encourages us to. Personal development is continual. You keep at it. And the other gal had this trauma. For her was like this huge brick wall, and she just could not. She wanted that breakthrough like what I had so badly, but she could not get the courage up enough to break through that wall, and both of them ended up passing away.
Mm.
And it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah. And the more like I hear people share the concept of dis-ease, right? Versus disease. Because we're all like disease, but it's that concept of dis-ease.
Uh-huh.
And the higher that dis gets for that ease, it eats literally like a cancer. It just,
Yep.
like, I can just envision it. And the fact that you can get through that is huge. So you have like a Voices of Women Summit coming up.
I do.
So at the upcoming Voices of Women Summit, you're going to be speaking on healing beyond the battle.
Uh-huh.
So how does the emotional education play a role in your personal journey and in the strategies you use to help others?
You remember how I said that cancer was the happiest time of my life?
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned through that journey was the emotions, the power of emotions, and I used to be enslaved to them, and to the point where I was on antidepressants, took antidepressants and stuff for years, and they would only work for a couple of weeks and then they wouldn't work anymore. And I would at some moments during that period of time, I would stand in the shower just crying and envisioning the water of the shower washing away the pain that I was feeling, the emotional pain. And I couldn't register it, what really the emotion was. It just all went to pain. So like if you imagine like those old telephone operators where they've got the little poles, the little cords to the, and would connect you. Well, mine didn't, it only went to pain, and I
Uh,
didn't know it. And so part of the journey that I went through with journaling and really peeling back the layers, figuring out where I was angry, figuring out where I was sad, figuring out where I was scared and those types of things, and really peeling back that and understanding it and answering why.
I just want you to that picture that you just gave me of that old, like I've ever been in in one of those phone operating things. I've only seen like the
Yeah.
play. And it's like,
Yes, exactly.
I totally got it. And then this way, and you're like, and mine only went to pain. And then when you took the pain, I just saw it like the pain meds. All it did was just stop that for just a minute. And when it just poked through eventually, and that's
Hmm.
why it only worked temporarily until. Like I totally envisioned. Then you did the work, so you had more plugs, so that the operator could have more numbers and more people. Oh, that was such an amazing analogy for me.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't want to say I completely got it, but I feel like I completely got it in a way that I don't know that I've ever understood it before.
Wow.
Beautiful picture.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Let's talk about your next thing, your book. So, your book has been a beacon of hope for so many. So, what inspired you to share your story, and what has been the most impactful feedback you've received from your readers?
So, my book, the cancer one's coming. This
Mm-hmm.
one is the domestic violence story. And what inspired me actually was I was in a course because I wanted to write the cancer book. That was the ultimate goal. And so I also did not want to put just anything out. I wanted it to be good. I wanted a good story. And so I joined a course to learn what I was doing, to make sure that I was doing an okay job. And so the triumph over darkness, my journey, was came out of two things: the course that I was taking and ultra. Ultra,
Oh,
ultra was my goal for my August goal for September to have it submitted for publishing. So that's kind of it could have been it probably could have sounded more sexy and stuff like that, but that's what it comes down to is was my doing an assignment, and it has done so much more than what I ever thought it would do. I took it to one of our ultra events, and I was pretty proud though that I at least got it published. And I shared it with a friend, and she came to us the next day when we were at the event. I said, "What did you do for dinner last night?" And she goes, "Oh my god." She goes, "I sat down in a quiet corner and read this amazing book."
wow.
And she goes, "I had tears in my eyes as I was reading this." She goes, "Because I get it. And now I have members in my family that are dealing with this. And now I get why why she's keeps going back and stuff like that. You gave me a whole new perspective on why people do this and what they can do, and that hope that you have." And she goes, "And I absolutely love Pete." Pete was my counselor.
Oh,
A lot.
so how can people get this book? Can they like go to your website? They get like reach out to you on Instagram? Like, how do they get this?
They can reach out to me on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I also have it's available on Amazon.
Oh,
So you
good. It's
can,
on Amazon.
yeah, so you can get it right from Amazon. Right now, I don't have the website link memorized for this book, so you can get it at Amazon. It's probably the easiest
Okay.
way.
If
And
you'll
the
send that to me, I'll put it on our website,
okay,
bettina.com/ASCC. Actually, it'll be on ASCChub.com.
okay,
So I'll put a link to that on ASCC.com. And I'm so excited, or they can reach out to you directly.
yep.
So could you tell me more about your upcoming podcast series, Beyond the Break? And what can listeners expect? And how do you choose the stories and experts that you're going to feature?
So it's something that my husband is so passionate about addiction recovery and
Mm,
seeing the people that can get, you can meet people at AA meetings, for example, that have been going there for 25 years, but they're still toxic. And so being able to, that's where we plan on starting, speaking to those people and be like, this, you don't have to live this way anymore. You can find different ways to go beyond that. And then we plan on weaving those ideas, whether you're coming out of domestic violence, whether you're coming out of cancer, those types of things, and having that break of having a traumatic experience happen in your life and be able to go on and move on and actually be able, like one of Brendan's messages is live, love, matter, really be able to have the aliveness in your life. Because as I mentioned, like when I was crying with the water running down, it was very gray and very dull, and I didn't experience bright days, and I didn't have any, my joy was like so muted. And so we want to take off the mute and help people live more alive, vibrant lives.
Oh, I love the partnership. I also partner with my husband, and having that is, I'm so grateful for that. And I love that you have that with your husband as well. So you've got the expansion of luminous connections.
Mm-hmm.
The vision that you have is to have a bigger online presence,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you've got an online resilience training program,
Mm-hmm.
and with community engagement initiatives contributing to a global shift towards thriving beyond adversity. If somebody like you're like, golly, I know somebody and I don't they're beyond what I can do to help serve them,
Mm-hmm.
and I see their potential, but they don't see their potential, and they've handed the keys over to somebody else, and you know that person just doesn't care enough, and they're just going to take those keys and they're going to put it over there, and it's going to be and they're going to get herded through, and they may or may not make it, and it's not right, all those things that you said.
Uh-huh.
But I see more for them than they see. How can somebody help this person connect in a way that to open their mind to want to have this kind of a conversation with you?
I think the first thing with the person that is wanting somebody else to they also need to look at themselves. One of the very first things that with when I went to the Growth Day event last April,
Yes,
and when they were offering the expanded version of Growth Day, as well as the starter package, I bought that for my husband, and I said, you're going to start. And he's done amazing. He's 11 years sober. He's done amazing. But even taking that in, it
yes,
ended up having our relationships at a deeper level. It
yes,
gave a different depth to our conversations. And so making sure that you personally are doing personal development,
right.
because and start having those conversations, so that eventually, if it's something, hey, I know this person, why don't you take a look at what they've got to offer, they'd be potentially more open to that conversation.
So let's say they're doing Growth Day, and
Uh-huh.
which I believe in the Growth Day app. My husband
Yep.
believes in the Growth Day app, like ultra, like we're doing all that. How does somebody introduce somebody to you?
They can reach out to me by my email,
Mhm.
Shannon at luminousconnections.com.
But do we just send them that information to you? Like, I have my friend over here. Damn, she's given the keys to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I really need to get, like, if she could come to you, there's a chance she could survive this.
I'm happy to like even have a conversation with the friend first and do
Okay.
some strategy about how they can bring up the conversation, because I've done similar things like even with my own family,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, yeah, no thank you,
Oh,
kind
this sounds like, how do we have an intervention? That's what I want to know. How
of.
do we have an intervention? That's what we need. That's like,
Yeah,
I'm saying it joking, but how does somebody have an intervention? Because there's more likely than not, if it's not you, it's somebody you know. If
yeah,
you don't know somebody, then it's you.
yeah. Definitely,
Right? It's just kind
definitely.
of where we're at in society.
Yeah.
So,
I
how do we have that kind of an intervention? What does that look like? How does that work?
Curiosity first,
Mm-hmm.
being curious about what moves them. So for example, like if you're seeing what moves them on Facebook posts or something like that, what really moves them, because there's an area where you may be able to get into conversations and be curious about, how do you feel? Is that, do you want to throw your keys away? Do you want to give your keys away? Is that what you want? Or do you want to feel empowerment and be like authentic and open to that? Does that?
Can you do me a solid, Shannon?
Yep.
Okay. Can I just say, hey, I got a friend. Her name's Shannon, and she's brilliant. She's been through so much, open wound, and knows how to close a wound.
Ooh, I like
And,
that.
and she knows how to guide people to that. Would you be open to just having a conversation with her?
I love that.
Can I do that? Can
Absolutely.
you? Okay.
Absolutely.
So if we can just make that connection right there, because the rest of it sounds like we can all screw that up. But if
Yeah.
I can just say, hey, I know somebody, would you mind just being open to having one conversation with her?
Yep.
Because we know your heart's in the right place. We know that you can really get somebody to that place if they're open and willing
Mm-hmm.
to work, and
Yep.
you will strategize them and build a customized strategy, and you have a community that will support and love and care
Mm-hmm.
and be that foundation when that monster comes through.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And monsters are gonna come.
The monsters are coming. The monsters are coming, but we'll be okay. We'll make it.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's talk about Avery.
Yeah.
Okay? Avery, let's talk about the Avery thing.
Okay.
Okay? So choosing the name Avery as a personal emblem of empowerment, you said it marked a pivotal moment in your life. Can you tell me more about that?
Avery's my superpower.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yes. So I felt so disempowered through, as you can imagine, through the domestic violence situation. And I when the divorce came, I wanted something different. Um I wanted to be me. I wanted to have something where it reminded me of the strength that I had, and that it reminded me of where I was and where I was going. And
Mm.
so I went out to an internet site and just actually went to Google and typed in names and brought up a web page that had all these different names and picked, a bunch of different names and started writing my name with it. And
Oh,
and then just dwindled it down, and Avery was the one that really stood out. And so it was, on the divorce paper, from this day forward the wife will be known as, or as Shannon Avery, and I was able to sign my name to that. So when I got married, I've been married 3 times. When I got married the second time, I never took his name. It was just Avery. And when John and I were married, it took me 3 years to add Briggs because it meant so much to me because it was mine. I worked hard for that baby, and so I'm going to be doing a kind of a little story about it here coming up on my Facebook page about the kind of even the I read an article not too long ago, kind of even the power behind the name that I didn't even know existed when I picked it, that just crazily aligns with the journey that I took. And so it one of those universe things again, right? That
Right.
points you to these different moments. So I'm going to be telling a little bit about that and what it has stood for throughout these years. And just recently, I they wouldn't let me change it on my driver's license originally. They were making me keep my original middle name. I had wanted to drop my middle name and put Avery in instead. And they put my middle name on the driver's license. So my social security card says Shannon Avery Briggs. My insurance, my bank account, all of that all said Shannon Avery Briggs, but my driver's license, and then when I for some reason the passport, they missed the Avery thing too. So my passport and my driver's license said Shannon Lee Briggs. Well, I went to open up my business banking account and they wouldn't do it. Even though my name on my personal account says Shannon Avery Briggs, they wouldn't open my a bank account with either one of them, Shannon Lee Briggs or Shannon Avery Briggs, because my business license says Shannon Avery Briggs, but
So
my
what are we
ID.
going to do about
So
that?
it was
I'm
like
like,
so.
I'm like, we're going to do something about this. I'm ready.
So I went back to I grabbed all of my paperwork and went right back. I went to um, a different driver's license office and shared the story with her. She's like, "That's stupid. Let's do it." And so my driver's license now finally says Shannon Avery Briggs. And there is something about like that feeling in my heart that is like that is who I am. And it's no disrespect to any of my family or anything like that. It's me. It's who I
Absolutely.
am. And
Well, well, from what you shared, it's like you were reborn.
mm-hmm,
So when you were reborn, just like I'm thinking, because I'm a mom, when I give a name to my child, right? There's a lot to be said about that.
yeah,
And on your journey, you killed off so much junk. You just killed off that part of yourself.
yep,
In that space, you you filled it with Avery.
yep,
And I can just imagine how important that is. That was the name of this of you,
yes,
the person that you like, that you birthed.
yep,
Oh, you kept the best part of You kept the best part,
yep.
Shannon. And oh, I love your story. I
Thank
love it
you.
so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So you did mention, this was very kind. And this will be, if somebody is concerned at all about making that connection and you're like, oh, because you have something in your head about asking for a favor, you have offered a free 1 hour strategy session to
Hmm.
anybody
Yep.
here that's listening to us to this day, listening to your story. And we can gift that free 1 hour session to the people. If once again, if you don't know anybody who needs to talk to Shannon, that somebody's probably you. Because there's so many of us that need to heal the dis-ease that's coming in, that's in our heads, that's coming
Hmm.
out physically. And if we don't take care of it, it's going to impact everything else. It is going to spread.
Yeah.
That I truly believe that it'll abscess and it'll grow. Um, Hopefully not like yours did,
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
but figuratively. But if we don't take care of our business, that's it. And we see it all the time,
Yeah.
how it does show up physically. So is there anything else that maybe I overlooked? Any questions? Anything that you can share that
One
tell me,
thing,
tell me.
have a guide or a mentor.
Mm,
Get yourself a guide or a mentor.
tell me
I've
more. Why is this so, and why do you feel this is so important to you? I feel this so true in my heart, but I'd like to know your words on that.
I walked into my counselor's office, the one that was helping me with the domestic violence,
Hmm.
and a day or so prior, I'd had a conversation with my abuser, and he was romanticizing us again. And so I walked into his office and was like, "We're gonna get back together. We're gonna turn this around. We're gonna have this wonderful life and everything." And he very, very starkly looks at me and he says, "You go ahead. You go right back to him. But I guarantee you, in 1 year, you will be right back where you are today. Except you will have lost the kids, or you're going to be dead because he will follow through on his promise to you."
Mm,
I would have gone back to him if I would not have had my mentor. If I would not have had my mentor slash doctor going through the cancer journey, we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
yeah.
I would have been, oh my gosh, it's like I keep coming up with these like stories and stuff like that. Um, I met a woman who told me her journey, cancer journey, and she had been treated, and she went with a surgeon. They had been treating her with chemotherapy and stuff like that. When they did the ultrasound prior to the surgery, they couldn't find the tumor, and but they still wanted to do the surgery. And she's like, why would they do that? And just to be safe, standard of care, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And she ended up having a lumpectomy as well as a lymphectomy. So that's where they take out, they take out several of the lymph nodes.
Right.
Um, for so a lot of times when you get into the later stages of cancer, it can spread to your lymph nodes.
Mm-hmm.
And so they removed her lymph nodes. They tested the lymph nodes afterwards. Um, Guess how many lymph nodes had cancer in them?
How many?
Zero.
Zero. I was afraid of that
So she's a cake decorator. That's what she does for life, or for her business and stuff. And so now she has a life with lymphedema.
because they took it all out because it was this it was just their
Standard of care. The
standard of,
standard of care.
and,
Yep.
and and I don't know that I love standard of care.
Right.
That's more like their system and
Yeah.
process.
Yes. Yep.
I think that labeling
Yeah.
might, that was a marketing ploy right there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Standard of care is what the marketing department came
Yeah.
up with.
I burned my book, by the way. My standard of care book, I threw it in the trash. I lit it on fire, and I was like, I'm writing my own. Um,
Yeah.
back
Wait. Say that. Oh my gosh. How many of us, like, can you just say that one more time?
I took their standard of care book, I threw it in the fireplace and burned it up and wrote my own.
And wrote my own.
I
You
did.
wrote your own.
I
Yes.
didn't just write the line in the sand. I drew my own. It was like,
Mhm.
yeah, so that's what it was. But back to this woman, after our conversation, what I realized, that was the same surgeon that I had originally interviewed.
Oh.
I had 4 lymph nodes that were removed from mine. But the thing was, is because of the very specific approach, she knew exactly which ones to go for rather than just, you know, taking out
Wow.
the standard approach. And it brought me to tears to know that. So once
Wow.
again, it's like having that guide and mentor that will help you through these things for you to figure out what's right for you. And
Mhm.
it's not about that guide and mentor is not about here's the keys to my body. That guide or mentor is to have those conversations so that you can figure out what your intuition and stuff is saying to you and bounce things off. Is this fear speaking? or is it the intuition speaking? What it so
Yeah.
having that collaboration with somebody else that can help guide you.
Wow. Your doctor, okay, so I have a friend and this is actually her specialty
Yeah.
is actually breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Beth Anglin.
Mm.
And she's here in North Texas and she's such a beautiful soul. And I'm like, oh, because I can see her looking at it from the perspective of standard of care
Uh-huh.
and to find that person. Who was your doctor that had the standard of care versus just the process?
You know what? I don't even know. I don't even know her name anymore.
If it was Dr. Beth Anglin,
Yeah.
I'd been like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew it.
No. No, I'm in the Seattle area.
Uh-huh.
And so that is like, so I can see their
That was so
faces in
long
my head.
ago.
Yeah. I can
Yeah.
see their faces in my head, but I moved on.
Mhm.
I did have one where I flustered her so much because I would come in with questions. I flustered her so much that because the surgeon that I went with, she had recommended this nature path oncologist to me. And after our meeting, she was like, why did you send this person to me? And I
To make
wasn't
you better.
rude.
To make
Yeah.
you better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
And
wow, that's wonderful.
yeah. So it was a crazy journey.
Oh, this what an incredible journey. It's kind of like you never know where our bumps and our bruises, like where it's all going to take us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what I found are like, and I hope that this gives hope for people that are just going through a horrific
Mhm.
path. But the
Absolutely.
folks that come out and healed, they really are, what's that K word?
Kintsugi.
I love it. And I love that you're just put to back together with such beauty. And
Oh,
you're just allowing everybody, it's like you're just serving everybody tea in this little kintsugi cup. Is it appropriate to drink out of the kintsugi cup?
yes, it is.
Oh, I love that. And just serving up Shannon Avery.
Oh,
You
thank
are
you.
such a superpower. Thank you.